Hi, I'm Kristen, and this is the Simple Handmade Everyday Podcast, where I talk about living a creative, intentional life. I like to chat about quilting, cross-stitch, sometimes knitting, what I'm reading and watching, and a little bit about self-care, productivity, and keeping a cozy, organized home. I've got my cup of tea in hand, so grab yours and let's settle in for a chat. This is episode 96. Welcome, friends. How are you? Here I am back 2 weeks since my last podcast, and I was struggling to come up with things to talk about. So let's start with having a fun beverage to settle in with. I'm drinking Harney & Sons Cherry Blossom Tea, which I absolutely love. It's a green tea with this cherry blossom essence, which I don't usually like flavored teas, but this one is lovely, and I can't wait to have another cup of this later on today, this afternoon. We are currently experiencing here in Southern California in late November, or I guess it's more like mid-November, Santa Ana winds or east winds, and it's awful. It's dry, humidity, I checked yesterday, was 15%. It's hot and windy, and everything outside is just crispy and dry and blah. And the thing about Santa Ana winds is it kind of makes everybody a little bit crazy. Everyone's irritable. It's because we're all like, we're dry and you just like feel off. I remember years ago, my hairdresser saying that everyone comes in and gets a haircut during Santa Ana winds because they're like, I can't stand it because, yeah, it's just your hair is different. My hair, I have like really curly, fine hair, and it is like, it's straight. I used to love it when I was a kid because I could blow dry it out straight and it would stay straight. And because there's just no humidity to make it do what it really wants to do. So I loved it as a kid. Now I just feel like, I don't feel like myself. So on that happy note, I'm ready. I'm ready for some rain and the return of normal weather. So Thanksgiving's coming up for those of you in the U.S. And yeah, so I've got my kids. I'm recording this on a Sunday. Kids are all coming home together Tuesday night. We'll all work and do school together or whatever on Wednesday. And then that afternoon, I'm hoping to kind of bail out of work early and make some pies. I've never really gotten to get in on that whole thing where big families get together and you just bring one dish. Yeah, we're basically always hosting, whether it's for my extended family, which we've done several times, but not lately, or it's just our family. And that's fine. I love it just, being our immediate family. I've got no problem with that, except for we have to do all the cooking. So Chloe and I will make pies the night before. I'll probably make the cranberry sauce the night before. And I thought of something else yesterday. I'm like, I could do that the night before. I've got all the recipes pulled. I've actually kept records of what we have made for Thanksgiving for, I don't know, I would need to look back, at least 15 years with notes about what worked and what didn't. Like, I don't like the Trader Joe's stuffing. That's a note. And in the last few years, in my kind of quest to simplify holidays so that they don't seem oppressive, and that I get the joy out of them, I've knocked 2 dishes off of our Thanksgiving menu that I had, associations with, but nobody in my family really loved, and that is sweet potatoes, or sweet potato casserole, and green bean casserole, which I actually do really like. But those are 2 very rich, side dishes. And the kids never really loved them, and I just kind of felt like everything was rich for Thanksgiving. So I don't do those anymore, and I do what I would do for Christmas, which I still just do for Christmas, and that is I steam up green beans, a little less than done, chop up some bacon, cook the green beans the rest of the way in the bacon fat with the bacon and with some slivered almonds on top. And that is delicious. And it's, it's still celebratory. We don't put bacon and nuts in all our normal side dishes, during the year. So it still feels special and it's delicious and a little lighter. So, and it's so much easier to make than those 2 big casseroles that you have to time in the oven and all that. So I'm just always looking for ways to, figure out what's important so that, everyone can enjoy the holiday. We're also doing something I did last year, which is it's actually called like Christmas pomegranate salad because it's very green and red, but it's I've got two versions of it. One is like salad greens, and one is just spinach with some nuts and some blue cheese and dried cranberries, and then like this dried cranberry balsamic vinaigrette. So that's my quest, to have some sort of a salad on the table, but still is lovely. And pomegranate seeds, did I say that? So so that'll be good. So when these holidays come around, there's always the question, since my sewing space is the dining room, I usually, clear that stuff up and we have our meal in there. But I think this year we're going to just have it at the kitchen table, so I don't have to, go tear all that down, even though I haven't really been using it very much. Between you and me, I still don't want to tear it down. So we're gonna try that this year and see how that feels. We actually usually do Thanksgiving in the dining room, and then Christmas we will do it at the kitchen table. So I don't know. So we'll see. I'm so up in the air about what to do with the different spaces in my home. One of my big projects for 2023 is to get the two kids' bedrooms. I have 3 kids. The boys always shared. So I have these 2 bedrooms that I want to repaint and repair and buy beds and make them work for our family going forward, with people, Ben coming home still for a few more years, hopefully at Christmas. Christmas and summer, this is still his home. He has not left the nest. So I want a good space for him. And then I want to be able to accommodate, all 3 kids when they come home. And we're just not set up in a great way for that. And I keep talking to people like, what should we do? And then I'm at cross purposes with using the room that I'm recording in right now, which is my daughter's room. And now actually Ben has claimed this room too. So who knows whose room this is? It was historically Chloe's room, but I kind of want to make this my sewing space. It's got better light than the other room. The other room has a beautiful window, but it's north facing, so the light isn't as good as this room. But if I put a bed in here so that, like a queen size bed, then there's really no room to ever make this a sewing space. And so there's just a lot, I feel like there's just a lot of decisions about, I'd kind of like to get out of the dining room, but I'm just not sure what the right space is. So that is just, I'm going to wrestle through all of that for 2023 and get things repainted and repaired and in good shape. And while the kids are home for Thanksgiving weekend, that's when we will start getting down the Christmas stuff, because it's always nice to have help with that, especially with 2 6'4" boys. So that'll be good. And my husband was saying, I know it's early, but I think as long as the boys are here, I'm going to put up the outside Christmas lights, because it's, they're like 3 inches taller than him, and it's so much easier for them to reach things than him. So I think we'll get that up. And what I usually do, I fell into this at some point in the last 5 years. We have an artificial tree, and I will set it up. It's pre-lit, and that will be like the only thing that I have set up for a while. And then I like the idea of decorating slowly, but I also feel like, I do clear out a lot of my normal decor. That was a rookie mistake I made early on after we were married, is just putting the Christmas decorations sort of on top of the normal decorations. And I realized, no, I just need to clear out a lot of the normal decor for Christmas stuff. So that makes it a little bit harder to do. It's easier to do in one fell swoop, take down all, I only decorate really 2 rooms, the family room where we spend our time, and then the front room, which is it's really my office now. It's the living room. So it's just easier to do all together. But I do like just having that lit tree. And then even when I do decorate the house, I often wait till the kids come home to decorate the tree. Even though that started when I think Chloe went away to college, and I just wanted to wait for her to do it. But honestly, I don't think any of them really care about it, but I like the help. So anyways, the holidays are coming at us like a freight train here. And I am trying not to feel stressed out about it, which is my default way to feel about the holidays. And I don't like that, to be honest with you. All right, that is enough of the chit chat. Let's get into the quilting segment. But before we do, I want to thank Fat Quarter Shop once again for sponsoring the podcast. Fat Quarter Shop is a one-stop show for quilting fabrics and supplies for quilters around the world. They stock quilt shop quality fabrics, pre-cuts, quilt kits, patterns, notions, and as we know, even cross-stitch supplies. So now the Fat Quarter Shop invites you to join in the 2023 charity quilt along, which is called the Bountiful Quilt and Stitch Along. This charity quilt along benefits the Make-A-Wish of Central and South Texas. You can join in by making this bright sampler quilt overflowing with spring's bounty. It was designed by Corey Yoder, featuring her fabric collection called Sunwashed. And have you seen Sunwashed? I love Corey Yoder. Sunwashed is beautiful. And she designs for Moda Fabrics. There's also a lovely cross-stitch pattern as well, so I'm going to have to figure out which one of those I want to do. So this is how the fundraiser works. Fat Quarter Shop offers the patterns as free downloads during the event for a suggested donation of $10 each, which goes to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and then Fat Quarter Shop matches, and they raise a lot of money for this great charity. You can also just make one larger, a one-time $50 donation, totally up to you. No amount is too small. Every bit counts. The quilt along will run from February to September, and they will publish a new pattern on the Jolly Jabber blog on the first Friday of each month. So you've got plenty of time to make those blocks. If you want to make the exact quilt as it's shown on the Fat Quarter Shop blog, you can reserve a quilt kit right now, and they expect those to ship in January. Of course, I will put a link in the show notes so that you can check all of this out, and I encourage you to join in. All right, let's talk quilting. All right, as well established, I'm in a bit of a quilting funk. I'm slowly working on that low volume quilt that I talked about last podcast, 6-inch squares of low volume fabric, and I'm just doing stitch and flip corners on 2 diagonal corners so that when you put them together, they'll kind of look like little butterflies or something. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about that quilt. It's kind of a placeholder right now. I just really need to find a pattern that I'm feeling really inspired by, and I just haven't quite found that yet. Or maybe I need to I keep wanting to work from my stash, but maybe I really just need to find a line that I'm really inspired by, and that will send me in the right direction. So I'm still just, slogging away at that, to be honest. One thing I was thinking about, though, Fat Quarter Shop, who does so many quilt alongs, is also doing a quilt along right now. It just started, so it's not too late to join in. And it is based out of the book Simply Half Yards, which I believe I talked about last episode. And it's got a lot of cute quilts in here for helping you use up some, like if you bought a half yard bundle, or if you really love a particular line and you want to really see it, because I think that the pieces are a little bit bigger in this book. They're doing a quilt along called Simply Stars. And what they've done is take star block patterns from this book, Simply Half Yards, from several different quilts, and then put them into one large sampler quilt. And honestly, there's a lot of times that I don't love sampler quilts, but this one's very pretty. It's very pretty, and it's got the center medallion. Here, I'm going to bring it up on one of my tabs as I talk to you about it. So they've got a really great center block. That's a very large, it's one of the quilts that I said, okay, maybe I should make this quilt because I really like this center block. And then the 4 corners are this cool star block called origami. If you've seen those, Christmas ornaments where people make them with fabric and they fold them into like this little origami star as a Christmas ornament? That's what this pieced block looks like. And then there's some sawtooth stars and just a number of other star blocks to fill out the whole thing. And now I'm looking at it. Maybe I should make this quilt. Anyways, it's a quilt along. It's going on now. It just started in mid-November. I'm now looking at the dates, and it finishes up, if you follow along with their timing, which of course you are not obligated to do, it finishes up by December 21st. So even before Christmas, you could technically, get this done before Christmas if that's what you wanted. So that's kind of on the list. I'm trying to be kind to myself right now because my work is kind of intense. I'm putting in more hours. I work as I have my own little business I shouldn't say little business. I have my own business doing marketing for a group of people that all sell the same software package in the manufacturing industry. It's the strangest thing. It's like I kind of made up my own little niche business, and certain times of year get really busy, and end of year, there's a software release, and then there's a whole bunch of pressure on these companies to sell a lot, so there's more marketing. So things are just busy for me right now, which is a shame. I would like them to be busy at another time of the year that's not the holidays. So I'm just trying to say, you know what? You don't have to do a bunch of extra stuff right now. You're putting in a lot of hours, so just be kind. So I encourage you to do the same if, we don't have to, start a million things at the holidays. We can do that at times of year where things aren't so crazy. So I'm thinking about that one. I've talked big for like many, many years about that quilt pattern called Only One that uses by Orange Dot Quilts that uses like panels, and I have a Christmas panel, but I just have not felt inspired to make a Christmas quilt. But maybe once we get past Thanksgiving and I get some Christmas decorations up, maybe I will feel a little bit more inspired that way. We will see. I made no progress on my hand quilting my Bonnie and Camille quilts, and that's because all my hand work time is being taken up with knitting and cross stitch, and that's okay. I will fall out of love with those things at one point, and then I'll be happy to be back to hand stitching. So that's kind of what's going on quilting wise. What I would love to know is, what are you guys working on? If you are in the Simple Handmade Everyday Facebook group, which I have not done a great job of putting a lot of new content there. I'm sorry, it's all mixed up with my feelings about social media right now. But if you're in that Facebook group, I encourage you, post what you're working on. I would really like that to be a space where everyone's just sharing, and some people do, but not just reacting to necessarily things that I post. I would love for you guys to get talking to each other. So here's my challenge to you guys. Post what you're working on in that group. It doesn't have to be a beautiful staged photo. Just, show me the quilt you're working on so that you can help me get out of this funk. On the cross stitch side of things, I don't have a lot to report. I'm still working on the Flea Market Flowers pattern by Lori Holt, published by Fat Quarter Shop. It's the Scandinavian flowers, and I'm absolutely loving the way it's coming out. I'm just about halfway. It's a large project, and I am perfectly happy to keep stitching on that. I know there are within the cross stitching industry, or whatever what would you call that, community? It's very popular to be working on a million things, and I can't do it. I just want to keep plugging away at this one project because I'm really enjoying it. But if I am in a situation where I'm making mistakes, or I'm trying to watch a show that requires me to pay a little closer attention or something like that, I've learned to just set that down and pick up some knitting. And so that's what I've been doing. So I'm working on the Flea Market Flowers. Here's some things I'm thinking about. Is we need more ornaments, like we need a hole in the head around here. But there are so many cute Christmas ornaments, and there's this fabric designer, the Prairie Schooler, and apparently they put out like a Santa cross-stitch pattern every year, and people are into stitching these, and I am mildly interested in that. But they've also put out a bunch of mini Santas that look like they would probably be about 3 inches square, and I've been thinking about buying that pattern and stitching some of those, and maybe one for our tree. But also, we give away. I've culled this list over the years, but we make fudge, and that's what we give away to like neighbors and close friends is fudge. And I thought it would be really cute to make, a little ornament like that, just as part of the tag. It could even just be a tag. Like I was thinking about making them little pillows, Yeah, I might do that. So anyways, I was thinking about buying that because that would be a fun, and they're these kind of old-fashioned looking Santas. I'll put a link in the show notes, but they're very cute. And I've got a whole big wish list on the Fat Quarter Shop right now, and they sell that pattern. And so I might need to place an order. I like to make sure I've got a few things so that that shipping cost, spreads out over a few items. And Fat Quarter Shop is they are having all kinds of sales these days. So I keep checking my wish list for things that I have put on that list. Are they going on sale yet? Haven't found one yet, but I'm sure they'll hit my list soon. So that's kind of it. Oh, the other thing about cross stitch is, I've talked a lot about, I don't know what to do with these little cross stitch projects. What I've learned is a lot of people just stitch them up and throw them in a bin because they don't know what to do with them either. But I do like the idea of doing these little small things. And I think for Christmas, I'm going to ask for a dough bowl, which is like a wooden. I've got a couple favorited on Etsy right now. So let's just say it's about a oblong, say 18 to 20 inches long and 8 inches wide, and it's kind of hand carved, a shallow bowl. And I guess the idea is that you could let dough rise in there, and it would be this, kind of like the shape of a loaf of bread. I'm not 100% sure what the real use of dough bowls are, but people in the cross-stitch community fill them with little projects. And I have a perfect place that I could have something like that. I could change out during different times of the year. Won't maybe always have cross-stitch stuff in it, but it would be cute to have little things like that, especially there's a lot of cute fall, patterns and stuff. So I'm kind of thinking about a dough bowl. All right, let's talk knitting a bit. So I have really been working on my elementary wrap, that pattern from Purl Soho lately, because I learned that, again, when I'm cross-stitching and I'm starting to make mistakes or it's too dim or whatever, the elementary wrap, it's just basically knit, flip it over, purl. It's very mindless and but still something fun to do with your hands. And I'm loving the way this linen quill yarn is knitting up. So I'm excited to make some progress on that this year. I still may not finish it, but that's totally fine. I love having the project. And I could knit some more socks. I either need to knit some more socks or I need to learn how to darn the socks that I have, because I've worn holes in 3 pairs of my hand knitted socks, which kind of makes me sick. And now I'm realizing, do I still have the matching yarn to even darn them? So I don't know how to darn socks. So that might be something that I need to learn to do if I'm going to go to the time and expense of knitting socks. But I have a bad habit of just in the winter, fall and winter, is just wearing socks around the house. And I will wear right through them. So I need to kind of figure that out. The other thing, and I will do a full review on this next week, but I was recently sent a book called the Lopapesa sweater. Lopapesa. I think that's how you say it. I actually looked up how to say it and I've already forgotten. It is a style of sweater from Iceland. So this is a book. It's a knitting book, and it's got this particular style of sweater and many different patterns. So it's a very Scandinavian style, the type of sweater that has the kind of I would say it's a Fair Isle design on the yoke. Fair Isle meaning there's often many different stripes of color or motifs, but you only, in any one band of the motif, you're only using 2 colors at a time. So that's what Fair Isle is, and that looks like that kind of abides by that. So they're beautiful sweaters. The one on the cover has this, motif on the yoke, and then also on the cuffs and on the rib, the band on the bottom. And what's cool about it is they do it as a pullover sweater. There's a version that buttons. There's a version that zips. There's a version with a hood. Just so many ways and so many interpretations of the sweater. Lots of different motifs. And I haven't had time, but I am so looking forward to reading this book, because it reads like a coffee table book. It's all about Iceland. There's a whole section on just, on Iceland and the different areas there, what inspired them to come up with this style. And it really dives into different areas in Iceland, which is really on a bucket list for me. My daughter, when she did a semester abroad in Norway, she got together with a number of other girls who were doing the same trip so that they could fly over together. And they flew to Iceland and stayed there for, like 3 or 4 days before going to Norway. And it's amazing. That was one of those weird situations when I was dropping her off at the airport. I ran into Kelly from Super Buzzy, who was this amazing in-person store in Ventura, California, but also has a great online store. She owns that, and I had met her before, and she and her family were going to Iceland. And it's just like this huge, national park. Basically, the whole continent's like a national park with a lot of volcanoes and, sort of black sand beaches, things like that. So anyways, I just got this book. It looks beautiful. Maybe this will inspire me to knit one of these sweaters. I've only knit one sweater, and that was the Weasley sweater from the Charmed Knits book when Jonah was little. And it had the J, on the front and everything, the little initial, like the Weasleys. So maybe this is what I need to kind of stretch my knitting skills. I'm not great with color work. I tried these mittens before Chloe went to Norway, and it was kind of a big fail for me. So I need to get back to those. So I'll have more of a complete review about this knitting book next podcast. Let's move on to books. What's funny is I know I read and listen to a lot of books, but I was out to dinner with a group of friends. I still have this group of high school friends that we celebrate each other's birthdays with dinner, because I live in the town next door from where I grew up. And one of them said, does anybody have any book recommendations? No, it wasn't that. It was more like, what is like the best book you read in the last few years? And I was completely just blank slate, just could not come up with a single book. I mean, I did tell her, of course, how much I love Louise Penny, but it's like, I kind of wanted one book. And as I was driving home, I'm like, oh, I should have talked about the Ann Patchett books I've been reading. It was just so funny. It was just like, I don't know, I would need to check my show notes for that, Holly. But isn't that the way it goes? So I did finish book 9 in the Stitched in Crime series, which I've talked about the last several podcasts. They're definitely cozy mysteries, but I think they're really well done. I will be the first to admit that some of the cozy mysteries I read are pretty lightweight, and I'm not saying this isn't lightweight, but they're very thoughtful. So there's a whole cross-stitch theme to them. Cross-stitch plays the most minor role ever in it, so don't be put off by that. But just about a woman who runs a salvage business, and she's always tearing down houses and stuff for her salvage business, there's always a body, which turns into a whole mystery. But they're really fun. They are very fun. Last week, maybe I talked about the Thursday Murder Club. A friend had recommended that, and I got it as an audiobook, and I was enjoying it, but I was too slow on it. And the Libby took it away from me because it's a popular series right now. So I'm hoping to get back to that, but I feel like I can recommend the Thursday Murder Club. I've talked about it in other podcasts, so I won't go into that, except for the fact it's a bunch of retirees that get together to try to go over unsolved murders. And I'll talk about it more when I actually finish the whole book. So I'm kind of at a place now where I haven't finished a bunch of stuff, so I can just tell you what I'm currently reading. I just finally got through Libby, French Braid by Ann Tyler. I love Ann Tyler, and I'm just barely into that book. It's been also a very popular book, so I need to be on it because I know they will take it away from me in 2 or 3 weeks. So I am definitely looking forward to that. I think that's a big kind of book club book this year. I'm never on the cutting edge of these books, to be honest with you. And then the other book that I'm reading, I'm just kind of starting it, so I can't tell you a lot, but it was recommended by my friend Frances over at the Off Kilter Quilt. As you know, we're doing this, you may not know, why do I say that? We are doing a joint blog called The Empty Nest Chronicles, and our last post was called, I think, Pruning Season, and we were just talking about things in our lives that, we don't need a big revamp in our lives, but what are some things that we can prune out of our lives so that we have more energy to go into the places that are more meaningful? Social media is one of those things, I think, for me anyways. And Frances recommended a book called The Life We're Looking For, Reclaiming Relationship in a Technological World by Andy Crouch. Of course, I will put a link in the show notes, and I'm not too far in it, but it's exactly what it's about is how relationships suffer when we've got this little device in our hand that is completely curated to addict us. The algorithms of social media are created to keep you in the app, to keep you clicking, to keep you going. It's just like little sugary snacks for our brain, or salty snacks, whichever one, to keep us scrolling. And so I'm enjoying that. So I can't tell you. So these are just this is what I'm reading, not so much big recommendations for you for things that I've finished. On the TV side of things, my husband and I are watching Designated Survivor. Talk about a show that's curated to keep you clicking, keep you next episode. But we're enjoying it. It is a show. It's Kiefer Sutherland. Remember him is the main character. So the premise of the show is that when the president does the State of the Union, at the Capitol building, you got the president, the vice president, all of Congress, and all of the Supreme Court. You got all three branches of government in the same building at the same time. So they pull out one member from, I don't know if it's always from the cabinet. In this case, it's from the cabinet, to stay behind at the White House as the designated survivor in case anything happens. So, of course, something happens. Somebody bombs the Capitol building, and basically everybody is wiped out. The executive branch, the legislative branch, the judicial branch is all gone. And you've got Kiefer Sutherland, who was the cabinet secretary of HUD, is now president. And obviously, that's a lot for one person. And so I think there's already 3 seasons, and I don't know. I'm always surprised when I come across a show that's got 21 episodes in a season, because I feel like they don't do that anymore, but it does. So I think there's 3 seasons, 21 episodes. So we're still in the first season, but it is so easy to go, you want to watch the next one? You want to watch the next one? It's a lot of drama, kind of some action. It's a fun show. So which sounds crazy when, obviously everyone's died, but it's been fun for my husband and I to watch. And then I was so excited to find out that Doc Martin has a new season. So if you're on Acorn, season 10 of Doc Martin just recently dropped, and it's going to be the very last season. But it is so fun. I've just watched, I think, 2 episodes. It's so fun to get back to Port Wynne. It is such a bucket list thing for me to go to Cornwall, and I think it's called Port Isaac is the real city that was filmed in. And I feel like that city plays in many different shows. I think maybe Fisherman Friends, the movie, was filmed there. It's so iconic to me. I feel like I could find my way around that city, that little village, I should call it. So it's making me want to do, when I finish this season, I might just go back to the beginning and rewatch the whole series. And if you don't know what Doc Martin is, it's this very highfalutin surgeon from London, develops a blood phobia. And so he all of a sudden can't perform surgery anymore. So he goes to this very tiny village called Port Wynne, where he takes over being the local GP there, thinking this would be easier. He clearly is, let's just, as they say, on the spectrum. He's not social. He doesn't understand social cues at all, but he's a brilliant doctor. And so it is all about all these crazy characters in this village and his interactions, his very cranky interactions with them. But which makes it all very funny, and the scenery is gorgeous, and There's a character, Louisa, who was a school teacher, and I just would like to pluck out her outfits of every season. And she has this way of wearing skirts and sweaters that are so adorable. So anyways, Doc Martin, highly recommend it. Such a fun, totally British show. Okay, last episode, I talked about the fact that Three Pines, based on the Louise Penny novels, is a Amazon Prime TV show coming out. I think it's December 2nd, so like soon. And Susan said, you should do a watch party. And I was like, what is a watch party? So I looked this up. I talked to my children. I need to do a test run. Who would be interested in doing a watch party? Which would mean that everybody, to do a watch party on Amazon Prime, you have to own Amazon Prime. But I don't know, I'm going to need to run a test. I can start it and there's a chat. We can all chat. It's like we're all watching it at the same time and we can chat about it live. And I'm going to put a poll in the Simple Handmade Everyday Facebook group, not the page, the private group. So if you want to vote, join that to see if there's any interest in this. It's okay either way with me. If you just want to watch it on your own, that's totally fine. But it would be kind of fun to do it together. And so maybe when all the kids are home, I will do some test runs so I can figure out how this goes. But I think what would happen is that I would set this up and then I would send a link. So maybe I would put a link in the Facebook group and say, if you want to be in on the watch group, the watch party, here's the link, and we'll see how that goes. So I'll be putting a poll out to see if there's any interest there. But thank you to Susan for coming up with this idea. It's very fun. I'm very excited about this show, but also nervous that they're going to ruin like my favorite series of books. All right, as we move into our last segment here, I got to tell you, I was struggling with what to talk about here because life's just been a little bit strange over here. And my computer's about to die, so let's finish this sucker up. Basically, what I want to talk a little bit about is just prepping for Advent. Now, if you don't celebrate Christmas, I totally get that. We can just consider this kind of prepping for the change of seasons and the holidays in general. But specifically about Advent, there's a couple things I wanted to recommend. I have a book called Shadow and Light by Tish Oxenreider, and she used to run the blog Simple Mom. She's a phenomenal writer, and she put out this beautiful book called Shadow and Light that's kind of an Advent devotional, and there she has a playlist on Spotify, so it has elements of music, art, and then some scripture and some sort of essays each day. And I'm looking forward to pulling that out. I don't always do it every day, but it is a great resource to have out there on the coffee table for me to pick up when I have time. So that's, I love that. I've talked about it in previous years. And the other thing that I recently bought, I might have told you guys this already, is the Jackie Lawson Advent calendar. So this is a digital Advent calendar. It's not religious, but it's something that you can download. You can do it on your phone, tablet, computer. And she's an illustrator. And so it's this little app that you download. This year, it's always in a different location. I think last year's had like a Nordic theme, or in one year it was in London. This year it's in Sussex. And there's 25 days of little things you can do. So you log in on that day, and there's a little animation that you watch. There's usually, you're looking for something, you scroll through all the beautiful scene that she set up to find these little hidden things. There's a place to go where you can play little games, that are fun. I'm not really into computer games, but I always play these little games. It's just the most delightful little thing to do with your coffee in the morning, and it costs like $7.99. So I'll put a link in the show notes, but she also does digital birthday cards and things like that. I've never done any of that, but this will be the third Advent calendar of Jackie Lawson's that I've purchased, and I've really, I love them. They're so much fun. And then, last episode, I linked to a blog post from many years ago that inspired me to did inspire me. It gave me the idea that it would be so cool to just to get up early and just do some deep cleaning in the house in preparation for Advent. Now, have I done that? Absolutely not, but I'm still thinking about it because I'm very good about keeping up with surface cleaning. But as I do my surface cleaning, I'm beginning to really see the areas of the house that need something a little bit deeper. And so I was just thinking that it would be nice. Maybe I just get up early and, put on some Christmas music or something and just hit one room at a time and do fix some things that are kind of bothering me on the deep cleaning level before I layer a bunch of Christmas stuff on top of it. So I guess what I want to say is just I'm encouraging you to figure out what are the things about the upcoming holidays that give you a little bit of friction, that stress you out, and maybe start thinking about ways to, ask yourself the question, what can I do now so that things will be easier later for me? And so that's what I'm basically in preparation mode before we hit it all hard and just in the middle of the Christmas mayhem, the holiday mayhem. So I guess that's about it for this week. There's no new reviews to talk about, which is fine, but I do encourage you, if you enjoyed the podcast, pop over to whatever your podcast reader or device is, and whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or whatever, and rate and review the podcast. If I miss your review, I'm so sorry. I really try to thank everyone that does that. And sometimes I think when people leave reviews, in certain places, I don't always see them, so I apologize for that. As always, I put links to, I like to say everything that I talk about, at least most of the things I talk about in the show notes over on the blog, Simple Handmade Everyday. I'm on Instagram as Kristen Esser, and please consider joining the Simple Handmade Everyday Facebook group so that we can keep the conversation going. Happy holidays and have a wonderful week.